Hello, my name is Kobe McCloud. I go to Bloomsburg University. I am a mass communications major with a minor in political science, and today I will be discussing the United States and Russian relations. Some history between Russia and America is that they've been through a lot of diplomatic ties and tensions and wars starting from the 1800s to today, including the time where America purchased Alaska from Russia, given that Alaska was originally Russian territory. Russia was not recognized by America till 1933. In fact, the two countries have been at each other and with each other since the founding of the two. Despite our differences, the Soviets, or now today the Russians, and the Americans united against a common enemy during World War II, which was, of course, Nazi Germany and the Axis powers. The Soviet Union participated in a Lend-Lease program under which the United States provided the Allies with supplies, since the Americans and the Soviets were on the same side during the time of World War II. Right after the ending of World War II, however, the two countries would then be tied in a century-long conflict known as the Cold War, which we were tied between the nuclear tensions between the two countries, and ultimately could have led to the end of the world over political tensions. However, not only were the two not recognized by each other till 1933, in fact, the Soviets were not really on the Allied side in the beginning of the World War II. In fact, Soviets were tied with Nazi Germany in a non-aggression pact in which they would share and take over Poland. It wasn't until Nazi Germany would then conquer and completely break that treaty and just push over the barrier and then begin the war against the Soviets. And when the Soviets would have no choice than to join the Allied powers and continue the onslaught against the Axis. Cold War was such a tense-filled conflict versus the eastern part of the world and the western part of the world, and ultimately communists versus non-communists. This conflict would be so deadly to the point where it's gotten so close to the world going into a complete nuclear war, which would ultimately end the Earth and all life as we know it. There were a lot of conflicts and influences that both America and Russia, both historically and today, had influence over and oftentimes fought the proxy wars with these nations. Conflicts such as the Korean War, Vietnam War, the Soviet-Afghan War, the Berlin blockade, and the Eastern and Western Germany split, the fall of the Soviet Union, the infamous Cuban Missile Crisis, and the moon race. Both the United States of America and Russia have their set allies and influences that they've had over time for a very long time now. The United States of America is currently allied with Canada, Australia, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, Ireland, Israel, Norway, Sweden, Germany, and the Baltic states. In the end, it ultimately comes down to America is usually allied with the western part of the world and NATO. And for Russia, they do not have so much allies per se in the world, more of just economic partners or just historical communist brother nations or just CIS states. Their allies are China, Serbia, Cuba, Syria, Pakistan, Laos, Venezuela, Mongolia, India, and North Korea. As for Russia, their allies are usually from historical communist brothers and allied nations from the past, or current just economic brothers in which they just make economic deals with and trade and keep it at that. Russia doesn't seem to have a lot of allies in the world, but they do fight for the eastern part of the world against the West. Despite the tensions America and Russia has had or still has to this day, they still keep the world globalized and work together for economic relations. Russia is a large exporter of energy resources such as oil and petroleum products, gas and coal, rolled steel, and a lot of metals and minerals that are found in Russia. The greater part of Russia exports belongs to oil and petroleum products. Ultimately, that is what Russia is known for and what they have the most. Hence the reason why they went after the annexation of Crimea. The United States and Russia trades more with their allies, per se, more than with each other. Russia trades with the CIS, and America usually trades with the Western world or their allied nations such as NATO or Canada and Mexico, for example. However, the United States and Russia both also trade with China, one of the larger exporters and importers of the world. Maybe Russia and China might not trade as much in terms of economic goods, but in terms of military goods, Russia and China do trade a lot and oftentimes mimic the same exact kind of air force and style of air force they both share. Versus where America and China, yes, they might be locked into a trade war, they're so economically tied in and so trade heavy between the two nations to keep each other's GDPs up and rising and good economic dealings with each other and other countries around them. In United States and Russian relations today, even to this day, Russia and America still keep the same love-hate mutual relationship between the two. These countries have been in recent conflicts and political tensions due to the election tampering and getting Donald Trump in office and preventing Hillary from getting in, and the annexation of the Crimea and Ukraine. However, these countries still have zero plans to engage in war ever, whether it's against each other or any more Cold War type proxy wars from starting again. However, tensions still linger around to this day, but they still keep the same globalized, mutual allied relationship to prevent another decade of tension and nuclear war. Even with all the historical tensions and issues between these two countries of Russia and the United States, rebuilding proper relations and keeping the world globalized and peaceful is also another essential part in ultimately finding a solution to the two countries. Some methods have been used in history, but we have seen countless times over the century where Russia and America have agreed to reduce nuclear stockpile, both from the ending of World War II up until today, 2019. Treaties like the NPT, which is the Non-Proliferation Treaty of Nuclear Weapons Act, was put into place. This act was put under to prevent the spread of nuclear weapons and nuclear technology, to promote cooperation and peaceful uses of nuclear energy, and to further find the goal of achieving nuclear disarmament and general and complete disarmament. Methods of increasing better democratic influence in both Western and Eastern Europe to deter Russia from hostile policies and methods of gaining influence in Europe, preventing Russia from annexing more countries and putting more of a military brinksmanship type of style against the Western part of the world. Military aggression in Europe should also be reduced to put down tensions of military buildups and military capabilities in both Eastern and Western Europe to prevent Cold War-like tensions. Bringing down lots of sanctions between the two countries, both from the past and history when they were the former USSR or the Soviet Union, would also heal a lot of historical wounds that have been lingering around for decades and keeping the world more globalized between the two biggest superpowers in the entire world. Here's my works cited page, and thank you so much for your time and have a good day.